What's going on, people? AZ Pullout 21 is the name, and we've got some WMMA5 here for you. And I've got a lot of explaining to do. If you can see in the top left there, we're in Sunday, week 4 of July 2020. So clearly, I've gotten a lot done thus far in this save of the game. And if you're rather new to this game is called World of Mixed Martial Arts 5. This is a great game that's developed by Ryland from Grey Dog Software. Adam Ryland, I believe, is his name. He's made a ton of great games, including this one and the TEW series, and I highly recommend you go check them out at greydogsoftware.com. I've spent countless hours on this game and TEW and plenty more. You'll love all of them. He's also got college football game, uh, basketball game, anything you can think of as far as like management simulation. Great, great guy to go to. Greydogsoftware.com. Check out all the forums and everything. Just great overall game developer, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of his stuff. Anyways, so this game is called the World of Mixed Martial Arts 5, and you basically run your own fight promotion. You get to book all the fights, you get to sign all the fighters, and you get to decide who goes for what championships, who's fighting, who's not fighting, who do you sign, who do you cut, things like that. It's all very exciting to me because I am a very big mixed martial arts fan. So, without further ado, we are going to go into, well, we're going to go into a lot actually, considering we're already more than 2 years deep into this save. There's a lot to go over, so I think we're going to take a little bit of time, and this is definitely going to be a long video because I'm going to have to go over the entirety of what's been going on thus far. So, once again, week 4 of July 2020. Let's start at the very beginning. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to this left tab. That's the company's tab. And I'm going to go right here to UFC. So I am in control of the UFC. I am essentially Dana White. I am booking all the matches. I'm signing all the fighters. And if you can see right there, our most recent event was UFC 250, Johnson versus Benavidez 4. And if you can recall, they had UFC 200 not too long ago. But I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of how I run things as far as my fight promotion and as far as my signing of fighters and how I decide who gets to fight on what shows and whatnot. So, we're going to go over UFC 250, Johnson versus Benavidez 4, and you might be seeing 4 and you might be thinking, Adrian, they've only fought twice, and Johnson's already won twice. Well, they fought once more in this world, and Johnson once again won. But if you can see there in that main event, Joseph Benavidez beats Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson to finally win the flyweight title. And this was essentially his last chance. If Benavidez did not win this fight, he was going up to the bantamweight division. Either that or he was going to be in the brand new strawweight division that I'm trying to develop for the men. So this was his final chance, and he won it. So Benavidez is now the flyweight champion. And essentially you can see the attendance right here, almost 30,000 in Nevada. Pulled in a nice gate amount of money. Critical rating is 73%, and what this critical rating is essentially not necessarily how popular the fighters are. It's how good the actual match quality was and how good like the fights were and how excited it got the crowd. That's commercial rating that you're thinking about. Commercial rating is based on the draw of the fighters and how excited the fans overall were to see the show, whether it was on pay-per-view or on TV or on UFC Fight Pass or something like that. And as you can see, this show was broadcast on DirecTV, Main Event, Sky Sports, basically all the pay-per-view providers, and it made $30 million off pay-per-view. And rather unrealistic numbers, but if you were to do a little bit of math here, pull out the trusty calculator. If a UFC pay-per-view today runs for about $60, 30, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6 zeros divided by around 65. That equates to around 461,000 pay-per-view buys. So the 250th anniversary of the UFC pay-per-views brought in nearly 500,000 pay-per-view buys. Now, that's something that the UFC would love to be doing nowadays, as they usually bring in around like 120,000, things like that. Still makes a lot of money, but nowhere near as much as they can be making. And clearly, I'm doing something right because I just pulled in $30 million off pay-per-view buys. Now, that could have a lot to do with the fact that this was the 250th edition of the pay-per-views for UFC, and I brought out all the stops, 5 championship fights on the card today, and it was Joseph Benavidez once again winning the flyweight title in the main event. We had Jose Aldo beating Renan Barão in the co-main event to retain his featherweight title. We had Vincent Luque beating George St. Pierre, yeah, GSP, who's, kind of not fighting nowadays. It's kind of a wonder whether he's ever even going to fight again in the UFC. But he was the welterweight champion in this save, and he has been defeated by Vincent Luque, and he is now the welterweight champion in the second round due to a knockout punch. Rumble Johnson, yes, I brought him out of retirement. Rumble Johnson is back in the UFC, and he beat Alexander Gustafsson for the interim light heavyweight championship. Daniel Cormier is currently still the champion, but he's out with injury and coming back rather soon, I should say. And Jillian Robertson beat Montana De La Rosa for the flyweight title. Look at the prelims, not that they matter all too much, but 250, I kind of try to stack the card a little bit. Aaron Pico, who you can see on Bellator, beat Mizuto Hirota. Jimmy Manawa beat Ilir Latifi. Harrison Magallanes, who is actually a generated fighter in this game. A generated fighter meaning like he's not actually a real life fighter, but he is essentially a fighter that the game created. He ended up being very good, and he beat Francis Ngannou, who we recently just saw fight against Miocic for the actual heavyweight title. He beat him in the prelims in the first round by TKO. Derek Brunson defeated Danilo Viafort. Theodoro, who we just saw actually win his last match last week, beat Robert Whittaker, who has actually had a very, very, very hard fall from grace in this game, formerly being the middleweight champion, and he is currently on an actual losing streak. Lost to unanimous decision. Rashad Evans, who's had actually a really good go in this game. He's kind of getting up there in age, but he's still doing himself proud. And Rashad Evans winning in UFC 250's opening prelim right after Gregor Gillespie beat Felipe Silva. Now, I'm going to show you the current champions. As you can see there, you're seeing at the bottom, you're going to be going Adrian. Just what is the atomweight division? That is a division that I am creating for the women, and I will get to you soon on what the plans are for that. Now, UFC Women's Strawweight title, active current champion is Claudia Gadelha, but she is currently on hiatus. She won the championship and defended it once, and then said, I'm taking a little break from this kind of thing. I'm taking a break from mixed martial arts, essentially. And she decided she didn't want to fight for a while. And the interim champion is currently Rose Namajunas. UFC flyweight champion, as you already saw, Joseph Benavidez. Women's flyweight champion, you already saw, Jillian Robertson, just defeated Montana. TJ Dillashaw has been the champion ever since the start of the save, and he still is. He's made 3 defenses. The UFC Women's Bantamweight champion, yes, she is currently in the WWE and having a good go of it so far. We'll see how things turn out for her in the WWE, but Ronda Rousey is the women's bantamweight champion, and she's already had 1 defense. The UFC featherweight title is being held by Jose Aldo, as it has been for, well, not for a while, but I should say, like, he's held it, on occasions, and man, it seems like he's kind of fallen from grace a little bit too, Jose Aldo. He just lost, and things aren't the best for him, but I'm sure we'll see him again. Women's featherweight champion now, Marlois Conan, was retired at the beginning of this game save. I convinced her to come out of retirement. The actual featherweight champion before her was Sarah Kaufman, who was the very first person to dethrone Chris Cyborg. And then Conan came in and boom, defeated Kaufman, and now she is the women's featherweight champion. UFC lightweight championship is held by Conor McGregor, and he has made 2 defenses, although he has lost this championship once. Welterweight championship is held by Vicente Luque, as you just saw, as he defeated GSP. Middleweight champion is Borrachinha Paulo Costa, a very, very, very up-and-coming fighter, even in the UFC in real life, and he is currently the champion in this save. UFC light heavyweight champion, I should say, Daniel Cormier, and then the interim champion is Rumble Johnson, as we just saw him beat Gustafsson for the interim championship. And the heavyweight champion is Cain Velasquez. He has made 3 defenses of his crown. So now we're going to go over the defenses that these titles have seen, and I'm not going to go over exactly, you know, the entirety of the history of this. The only thing you kind of really need to know is, the championships and who's been defending them and who's been fighting for them. And then as we go along, I'll kind of tell you some stories based on some people that I've booked, some fighters that have generated, things like that. It's little tidbits that I'm going after, including some people that I really hope do well in the future. Some people that are getting up there in age that I kind of want to see, fight some of the younger guys and put them over a little bit, essentially. But this is the world of mixed martial arts. Anything can happen, and we're going to see just what happens. All right. So Cain Velasquez did not start out this save as the heavyweight champion. As we know, that was Stipe Miocic, who most recently defended against Francis Ngannou. Doesn't have a title match scheduled for himself in real life. He's actually going to be fighting Daniel Cormier in a big money match in Las Vegas. I'm actually trying to get over to Las Vegas so I can see that fight, but it's not looking like that might be the case for me. Money's kind of a issue, but anyways, so Cain Velasquez beat Stipe Miocic, and I immediately booked a rematch where he beat him again, and due to this, Miocic lost a lot of momentum, because if you can see there, he got knocked out twice in the first round. So if you get knocked out twice in the first round, your momentum goes down hard, and despite the fact that they were actually title matches, his name value dropped a lot. So I set a rule for myself that said no rematches when it comes to championship matches. So as soon as you're the champion, if you lose that title, that you get no rematch clause. This isn't the WWE. We don't do things like that. If you lose your title, not back of the line, but you got to find your way up again. So Velasquez went on to his first defense against Miocic, won. He then beat Derek Lewis, Black Beast Derek Lewis, in his second defense, who's actually got a fight planned against Ngannou. That's going to be a real barn burner. And then went on to defeat Overeem in his third defense. So some heavy hitters he's had to defend against, but Velasquez still the heavyweight champion. Now Cormier started out as the light heavyweight champion, and as you can see here, his first defense was against OSP, even though he wasn't exactly the top contender, but he was the only fighter at the time who was on a win streak. So in my eyes, I was kind of, the only really deserving fighter. I don't like giving fighters title matches after a loss. I kind of want to make sure they at least have 2 wins on their belt before I give them a title shot. Then went on to defeat Alexander Gustafsson. Then went on to defeat Jimmy Manawa. So he had defended his championship 3 times before he went down with injury. Then I had to decide an interim champion. So I decided to book that fight between Gustafsson and Phil Davis. Phil Davis, of course, in Bellator now, but I was able to find my way into his hands, or he found his way into mine, I should say, and he found himself in an interim championship match and lost to Gustafsson, and then Gustafsson promptly lost the interim championship to Rumble Johnson at UFC 250. Now the middleweight championship, Costa beating Kelvin Gastelum in his last defense, as that is his first defense of the middleweight title. He defeated Chris Weidman for it, but if you can see here, obviously GSP beat Michael Bisping for the title a while ago. Luke Rockhold beat Robert Whittaker for it. So Robert Whittaker was the champion, but lost it to Luke Rockhold. And then we kind of saw a little bit of a back and forth. Rockhold beat Whittaker, and then GSP beat Michael Bisping, but that was not a part of this save. That was in real life, but Rockhold beat Whittaker. Chris Weidman then beat Rockhold immediately. Then Chris Weidman made 1 defense against Chris Brunson, and then Paulo Henrique Costa beat Chris Weidman. Now the middleweight division isn't the only one where it's kind of been a back and forth with the title, as you'll see right now. The welterweight division has been equally as crazy, if not more so. So it started out with Tyron Woodley as the champion. As you can see, Tyron Woodley has a fight booked against Talis Latis at 253, but he was promptly beat by GSP for the welterweight title, who was immediately defeated by Robbie Lawler for the welterweight title, who was promptly defeated by RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, for the title, who was then defeated by Rory McDonald for the title, who was then defeated for GSP for the title. So GSP finding his way back into the welterweight crown. And then GSP defeated by Vicente Luque. So very much a back and forth. There has been no actual defenses of the welterweight championship. Amazingly crazy, and it just goes to show how incredibly stacked the welterweight division is in the UFC, both in this game and in real life. No one really knows for sure what exactly is going to happen. Although Woodley, I believe he's going to be facing, I can't tell for sure, but I want to say it's going to be Darren Till, I'd imagine, after he just beat Wonderboy, but we'll have to see. Time will tell, I suppose. Nonetheless, Conor McGregor fighting a lot more in this save than he is in real life, I'll tell you that for sure. During the course of this, he has actually fought 7 times, and I don't believe Conor McGregor's fought 7 times uh, in a course of 3 years. That's not within Conor's grasp, honestly. Yeah, it's a wonder if he fights within the rest of this decade, to be honest. He's made so much money off the Mayweather fight, he doesn't necessarily even need to fight anymore. But I'd imagine at some point he'll find his way back into the UFC, even despite throwing a dolly at a car full of fighters. And if you don't know that story, that's something you need to Google. Nonetheless, the lightweight division saw Tony Ferguson as the champion in the beginning, but being immediately defeated by Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor then went on to defend it against Eddie Alvarez. Edson Barbosa then defeated Conor McGregor, who would eventually lose it to Conor McGregor. And this was around the time where I was saying to myself, I don't like this whole automatic rematch thing for champions. It kind of feels bogus. They lose the title, then they get an automatic rematch, and then if they win it back, who's to say Edson Barbosa doesn't deserve another chance? Who's to say? I don't know. And then they have a third one, and whoever wins keeps it. I don't really get exactly like that. Someone ends up having to lose 2 fights in 3, and it just feels jumbled to me. McGregor would then go on to defeat Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is the current lightweight champion and is a really good fighter. I'm a big fan of his. And then McGregor would go on to defeat Justin Gaethje, who we just saw lose to Dustin Poirier in Glendale, Arizona, a fight night that I was actually at because I work at the arena that it was at, and it was really cool to be able to be there. Nonetheless, that is the lightweight division. That is the lightweight division. And going on to the women's featherweight division, as you can see, Conan is the winner there. She is the featherweight champion. And it began with Cyborg. Cyborg was the champion, and her very first defense in this save was against GDR, Germaine de Radami. She beat her there. But then I think she fell into injury. I'm not exactly too sure. Either injury or she took a hiatus. And so Sarah Kaufman ended up becoming the interim champion by defeating Yana Kunitskaya, who Cyborg has already defeated once. She then went on to beat Cyborg for the undisputed championship, and that was a shock to me. I'm surprised that she actually won, and I was very confused as to how I was going to go about this, because Cyborg is obviously like a force to be reckoned with and everything in the actual real world of martial arts. So it was unbeknownst to me. It was crazy to me that it happened like that. And then Sarah Kaufman would then defend against Revelina Berto, who's the one to look out for in Bellator. And then Conan beat Kaufman, and she is now the featherweight champion. The actual men's featherweight champion, Jose Aldo, did not start out as the champion. That, of course, is Max Holloway, who saw his first defense against Frankie Edgar, then went on to defeat Chad Mendez, and then would lose his title to Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez, of course, a upstart in the UFC, was recently released and then re-signed, and it looks like he's going to be fighting against Zabit Magomedshirapov. I believe that's how you say it. But yeah, that's a fight that Yair has lined up for him. Jose Aldo would go on to defeat Yair and win back his featherweight crown, and then defended it against Nova União teammate, I should say, Henan Barao. All right, women's bantamweight champion, of course, Ronda Rousey. We got her to come out of retirement, as the first championship match for this was Holly Holm defeating Amanda Nunes. She then immediately defeated her again in her first defense, and then Ronda Rousey promptly beat Holly Holm in kind of a, redemption story. Holly Holm was the one that she knocked out, or Holly Holm was the one that knocked her out in the very beginning to lose her title. And then Rousey recently beat Raquel Pennington, who actually fought against Amanda Nunes and lost terribly. Uh, she had a good attempt, Raquel, but just absolutely outclassed by Amanda Nunes in that last UFC pay-per-view event. TJ Dillashaw has had kind of a light work. There's really been no standout contenders in the bantamweight division. So the first one was Marlon Moraes. He got defeated in split decision by Dillashaw. Then it was Dominic Cruz. He lost as well. And then Rafael Assunção lost by knockout 34 seconds into the fight. How about that? So 3 defenses for Dillashaw. He is still the bantamweight champion. Women's flyweight champion, of course. This was held originally by Nico Montano. All right, and Montana De La Rosa quickly came in and beat her. However, it was found that De La Rosa was actually, I believe she got popped for something. Yeah, drug test failure. So she beat Montano, but then got popped for a drug test failure and was stripped of the championship. And that was weird. So what I did actually was set up a flyweight championship tournament to determine the next champion, and it was actually won by Mackenzie Dern. Now, if you are a mixed martial arts fan, if you're an MMA fan, you might know who Mackenzie Dern is, and if you're a hardcore MMA fan, you'll not like Mackenzie Dern at all. She recently came into her last fight against Amanda Bobby Cooper, nearly 9 pounds overweight, and would go on to win the fight, but it's not a good look for her. She's come in overweight at both of her fights in the UFC, and overall, people just don't have the best opinion about her. They've memed the hell out of her, calling her, Dern and overweight Dern and Big Mac Dern, things like that. Nonetheless, Mackenzie Dern was the flyweight champion, and she defended it on one occasion, defeating Roxana Pruknall, not the most star-studded names in the women's flyweight division. And then Montana De La Rosa would come back after serving her suspension and beat Dern and won the championship, but then would be defeated by Jillian Robertson. So she is now the women's flyweight champion. As you saw in the very beginning of the video, Joseph Benavidez is our flyweight champion, but he had a rough go of it, and Mighty Mouse Johnson ruled this weight class, and he currently still does rule this weight class, but he did it in game 2, as he is still technically considered the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, despite the fact that he just lost. So Johnson would beat Moraga in his first championship match, then beat Benavidez in what is the 3rd time he had beaten him, then defeated Husier da Silva before beating Kyoji Horiguchi, before losing to Benavidez again. Benavidez had just gone on a 3-match winning streak tear over top 5 opponents, so it's like, I mean, he deserves a championship fight, so I'm just going to give it to him. Women's strawweight champion, we saw Gadella there as a regular champion. Interim champion is Thug Rose. So it started out as Thug Rose, and she beat Joanna champion for that. She defeated Ticia Torres in her first defense, and then lost it to Claudia. Claudia beat Joanna to retain it for the first time, and then defeated Livia Renata Souza in her second defense, but then went on hiatus. So we needed a new interim champion. So Rose versus Joanna for the interim championship. That was actually the 3rd time that match had happened, and Rose won. And the UFC Women's Atomweight Championship has yet to be defended. It will be determined by a tournament, and not just any tournament, but The Ultimate Fighter. That's right. The reality TV series The Ultimate Fighter. In this game, you can actually set up seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. I have done 2 seasons of it, and if I can bring it up right here, reality TV, The Ultimate Fighter, season 29. Season has ended. So, I have already finished. Actually, no, I believe this is the 2nd season that I'm on. Let's see, previous seasons. And if we go down to 27, 28. Yes. So I have in fact done 2 seasons. And the winner of the first one was a heavyweight Ultimate Fighter, and it was won by Tai Tuivasa over Curtis Blades. Both of these guys are actually really good prospects in the future as far as the heavyweight division. The only down point I didn't like about this was the fact that these were guys that were already all signed to the UFC, so there's no real reason for them to be fighting in the Ultimate Fighter, and that was also the case in this featherweight edition that I did, which saw Gavin Tucker win the Ultimate Fighter over Adlan Batayev. So I didn't like this format mostly because, I mean, these are already guys that are signed to the UFC. They don't necessarily need to be on the Ultimate Fighter. So I decided to take it a different course. I decided to do it differently for season 29. So I have a feeder system with these two companies called Invicta and ROC, Ring of Combat. And Invicta actually basically is the women's feeder league for the UFC. But what I did was I'm signing a lot of prospects, letting them fight it out in there. And so I brought the 16 best featherweights from Invicta, and I have them fight on the Ultimate Fighter. And the winner of the Ultimate Fighter will be a UFC fighter. And we have our final already set up, as it's going to be Doris Voss, who has a record of 2-1. And look at that smile. But anyways, she is she is going to be in the Ultimate Fighter finale. She is 2-1. Lost her most recent fight to Natsuko Takashita, who was already a UFC fighter. And she will be facing off against Kayla Harrison. Harrison is 3-2, already ranked worldwide as far as the featherweight division. And she is actually a judoka. And she went to the Olympics and won the gold medal in judo. So obviously, very, very deserving person to be in the UFC, but that's to be seen. Who will win the Ultimate Fighter, Harrison or Voss? And that is to be decided at the Ultimate Fighter finale, Voss versus Harrison. That's in August. We are currently in July, so just a month out from that. And so, the next Ultimate Fighter that I have planned will be a season. If I can bring this notepad over here, it's to be a season down here. 16 women from Invicta for the inaugural UFC Atomweight title. And those are the women that will be involved. All of those women will be fighting for an opportunity at the Atomweight title, with the Ultimate Fighter finale being for said Atomweight title. So take a look at those names. You might be seeing some of them in the near future. But nonetheless, since we're already here, I'll go ahead and go over a little rundown. This is my notepad that I like to keep open when I'm playing. It's basically got all of the contenders that I see fighting first for the championship. We just had Luke Hay win, so there's no reason for his name to be there. And the first person he will be facing is Gunnar Nelson, as you can see right there in the welterweight division. Also, we have Rumble Johnson, who just won the interim title. That needs to be deleted. And so the first one in line is Gian Viance for the interim belt. Let's see, Poirier Barao, he just lost. So we currently don't have a featherweight contender. That is to be seen in the near future. I'm sure someone will be able to pull it out. Someone will, make their name known. And as far as the flyweight division, our next contender is Naoki Inoue, if he is to win his next fight. Should he not, maybe I'll look at someone else. Maybe I'll look at an immediate rematch with Mighty Mouse. I don't know. Nonetheless, that is it. Robertson just won her fight, and she is no longer a contender. She is the champion, and she will be taking on the winner of Mackenzie Dern and Maria Barella. So if you can see there, Poirier is in line to fight against McGregor, and his fight is already scheduled. Ben Rothwell's already had his fight scheduled with Cain Velasquez. Courtney Casey has had her fight scheduled with Rose Namajunas. And Norma Dumont, who is a real-life fighter and has been signed to the UFC by me, has her fight scheduled against Ronda Rousey. So, if you're seeing this and you're wondering what these are the amount of fights that I have on every single card. I run one pay-per-view a month and one UFC on Fox card a month. On 1 week, I do 2 fight nights, and then on another week, I do 1 fight night. That brings me to a total of 5 fight cards a month. It used to be 6 because I used to do 2 fight nights a week on the weeks that there weren't a pay-per-view or Fox card, but I decided that is too much, and I'd much rather do it the way that I'm doing it now. So on pay-per-views and UFC on Fox cards, there's 5 fights on the main card, with 9 preliminary fights. And on the UFC Fight Night cards that are on the UFC Fight Pass, there are 6 main fights with 7 preliminaries. A little rule that I set for myself: no rematches for title fights. I already kind of explained that to you guys, but it's kind of just defeats the purpose, because what if Mighty Mouse were to go up against Benavidez and lose again? He just lost 2 matches in a row. You never know how people are going to see him after that. So I always kind of just let the former champs go in, get an easy win, trying to get their stuff in together. All defeated champions must win at least 2 for consideration. All right, and you see there, UFC Women's Atomweight Championship. That will be the next Ultimate Fighter, and you don't necessarily need to see that right now. So that leaves us to right now. And what exactly are we doing right now? Well, we're running the UFC, and we're booking all these fights, and we're signing these fighters, and we've already got a lot of match cards set up towards the near future. I like to have my match cards booked for at least 3 months in advance. So we're in July, and I currently have all the match cards booked up until October. So that gives us August, September, and October. So book 3 months in advance. UFC 253, the main event, TJ Dillashaw versus Thomas Almeida. I can actually change the name of that right now, because that is the main event of the show. And here you can see the show. Robbie Lawler will be taking on Daichi Abe, who has actually gone on quite the nice little run. Has had a 5 match win streak, recently defeating Wonderboy Thompson. And so he will be in the co-main events against Robbie Lawler. And if we can see Robbie Lawler and how he's been doing, he was recently the welterweight champion. And then, as you can see, lost it to RDA. Then immediately defeated Tyron Woodley. Then defeated Chad LaPriest. I believe he was set to fight someone else. And he kind of and the other guy went down with injury. So he defeated LaPriest. But nonetheless, Robbie Lawler in the co-main event against Daichi Abe. Ryan Bader, who I signed from Bellator a while ago and nearly had a chance against Daniel Cormier for the light heavyweight championship, but saw that derailed because he lost to Gian Vellante right here. He most recently beat Eric Anders. He will be fighting against Max Nunes. Max Nunes is a real-life fighter. Most recently fighting, if you can see, against Maxim Futen, apparently. He's been on a tear. The moment I signed him, he's been on a 5-match winning streak. Beating Marcel Fortuna, then Ed Herman, then Blachowicz, then defeating Wanderlei Silva in his final match, and then defeating Phil Davis. He's definitely in line for a championship match should he be able to beat Bader. Alright, going down, Talis Latis will be facing Tyron Woodley, of course. Tyron Woodley, the former welterweight champion. This is actually going to be a catchweight fight between a welterweight and a middleweight. And then Roy Nelson versus Derek Lewis. Now, Roy Nelson was he nearly in line for a heavyweight championship shot until he lost to Overeem. Then he lost to Junior Dos Santos, and it's kind of been a little bit downhill for him. But as you can see there, he beat Ngannou on his first fight back to the UFC. So that's why he was immediately in line for a title shot. Lost next 2 of his fights, and it's kind of, we'll see where it goes for him. As also Derek Lewis fought against Cain Velasquez for the title, lost. Fought Ben Rothwell, lost. All right. And you can go ahead and pause if you need to take a look at any of the screens there. Those are going to be the prelims. Nothing much to see. Gilbert Melendez on the card, Doo-Ho Choi, Rinikai, Ian McCall, who I signed back up from Ryzen. He actually most recently retired from real life MMA, so interesting to see there. So that is UFC 253. You already saw, I believe it's pretty close. Yeah, there you can see the Ultimate Fighter finale, Vaz versus Harrison. That's actually being headlined by Abdul Karim Edilov and Khalil Roundtree. The next UFC pay-per-view we've got going on is UFC 251, Rousey versus Dumont. We got Mike Perry facing Paul Daly, who is actually banned from the UFC in real life, but I signed him back up because he's a pretty good fighter. He cheap-shotted Josh Koscheck, And it's funny that he was actually booked against Josh Koscheck on a Bellator show in this real life game. That's funny to me for whatever reason. Um, but anyways, yeah, Paul Daly facing off against Platinum Mike Perry, Lando Venata versus Marif Purayev, who I believe is making his UFC debut on pay-per-view. And I'm not exactly sure how that managed to happen, but you can see the guys on a 5-match win streak in KSW, which is a MMA show run out of Poland. Carlos Condit versus Mike Pyle. And Carlos Condit, I believe he is on a little bit of a win streak, losing streak, I should say. Lost to GSP, then Luque. Before that was on a win streak. And then Yair Rodriguez, former featherweight champion, against Patricio Freire, who was a dominant featherweight in Bellator, came to the UFC and beat Jeremy Stevens in his first match, but then lost to Henan Barao in what was essentially a title eliminator. So he'll get another chance at the top 5 against Yair. All right, moving on. UFC on Fox. Main event is Michael Chandler against Mark Diakeshe. UFC 252. Main event is Cain Velasquez taking on Ben Rothwell for the heavyweight title. And then Conor McGregor facing Dustin Poirier for the lightweight title. And I'm torn as to what I actually want the main event of this show to be. Let me know in the comments, or if you guys are watching on Twitch, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know, should Conor be in the main event against Poirier, or should Velasquez be in the main event against Rothwell? My main issue is Poirier, if you can see here. It says likely usage on the preliminary card. His name value is mid-level national. He is on a good winning streak. Melendez, and then he lost to Ferguson, but it was deemed a no contest. Beat Gilbert Burns, and then beat Edson Barbosa, who we already know was the title holder at a point. So he is going up against Conor McGregor, who of course is Conor. But then Cain Velasquez is on a tear, but so is Ben Rothwell. Let's take a look at some of the wins that he's gotten. All right. After I talked him out of retirement, came back, beat Karol Bedorf, who is the current KSW fighter, beat Andrei Arlovsky, then defeated both Ngannou and Lewis. Those are two very big names to beat. And he did both of those on national TV on Fox, and I believe that is the main event fight for that pay-per-view. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just think that's the main event for that show. Sage Northcutt also taking on Joe Lauzon. Joanna Champion, or I should say Joanna J. Stashek. Not exactly sure how to say her name. If I could butcher it, I'd say Jaderzejczyk. She's taking on Carla Esparza. And then Tai Tuivasa taking on Travis Brown. So that's what we got scheduled so far. And that is what we've got going on. But our next fight night, and the one that we're going to take you up to, is UFC Fight Night Tate versus Wu. It says the show is not due to be broadcast by anyone, but that is incorrect because it is actually going to be shown on the UFC Fight Pass. Add that as the broadcaster, and we're good to go. Take a look at the fights going on there. There are the prelims. Once again, it's 6 and 7. So 6 main card fights right here, and then 7 prelims. And as you can see, Miesha Tate, I talked her out of retirement as well. And since she's come back, she's beaten Sarah McMahon, lost to Amanda Nunes, and lost to Norma Dumont. And I'm afraid that she might retire again if she loses one too many fights. So I hope she can get a win in and not exactly retire, because that would be kind of a bummer. So now, we are on Sunday of week 4, and that means that when we go to the next day, it is going to be Regen Day. On the first day of every month, new regenerated fighters come around, and we are able to see who is new to the world of mixed martial arts, and I will explain why that is important. But we have some emails. John Tuck recovers, Cody Salmon recovers, Benavidez needs to renew his contract. So let's go ahead and do that. Our flyweight champion, we can't lose him. 6 fights, I'll guarantee you that. He wants $100K per fight. That's all good. The flyweight champion will stay here. Robert Whittaker wants a contract renewal. Former middleweight champion, currently on a big losing streak. As you can see there, a 6-fight losing streak. That's ridiculous. Jeez. I mean, how his name value must have dropped a bunch. He's high-level regional now. He started off at mid-level national, and he's He's lost 6 fights in a row. That happens. I'm still going to re-sign him. Yeah, 3 fights is good. Hopefully he can get a win in. Maybe I should just book him against someone less strong. I mean, there's no reason you should not beat Salim Tuari. You're a former middleweight champion, bro. Come on. Lost to Theodoru, Rashad Evans, Latis, Hendricks, and Rockhold. Ridiculous. So Whitaker gonna get re-signed. Latifi just lost to Manawa. Let's see how he's been doing. 2 fight losing streak against 2 decent opponents, but he's beaten a lot of ranked opponents in the past, so he's good. Sign him up for 5 fights at 37K a fight. It's all good. Can always use light heavyweights from Sweden. Manawa, we just saw him. Of course, he beat Latifi, and he is currently the number 4 heavyweight in the UFC, light heavyweight in the UFC. Let's see how he's been getting on. So lost to Shogun and then to Daniel Cormier recently. Of course, he had that title fight, so he's getting his name back in there. And of course, we're gonna sign him back up. 5 fights for Manawa. Get him in the van. Melinda Fabian. Now, I believe, yeah, she's in Invicta. And how's she been? So, Melinda Fabian, she was originally a UFC fighter, but I don't like the fact that she has a losing record, so I decided to send her down to our feeder league, which is Invicta, and she is losing. Lost her match against Emily Whitmire. She's a flyweight. I don't think I'm going to re-sign her. I'm going to let that one go. Best of luck to you, Melinda. Montana De La Rosa, our former flyweight champion. Of course, we're going to keep her. Get her in there for 4 more fights. So she has another offer, but I don't think she'll sign for anyone other than ourselves. Our new flyweight champion, Jillian Robertson, needs to be re-signed. 9-3, 6-1 in the UFC. Sign her up for 4 more fights. All good. Our flyweight champion needs to get re-signed. High-level regional only. That's kind of a bummer considering she is the champion. I'm sure that'll go up a little bit as time goes on. All right, let's see. A feeder league fighter needs to have her contract renewed. She most recently lost, but she was doing good work in there. You know, she's 6-2. And as far as me signing her, she is 4-2. That's pretty good, I'd say. I'd sign her up. Give her 4 more fights in the development system. And if she can get herself maybe another 2 more wins, I might consider bringing her up. Adriana Chappelle. 1-1. Beat Skylar Crank. She's a featherweight. Those are very hard to come by, so we're definitely going to sign her up. Even if she's just down there to, give other prospects wins, she's very useful in that sense. All right, Bellator approached Jillian Robertson. Well, you can't have her. You can't have either of those girls. What are you doing? Why are you trying to take my flyweight division, Bellator? You can't have them. They literally just fought for the flyweight title. Why are you thinking you can take them? I don't think they'd go to you guys anyways. So we're good with the emails, and we're going to advance to the Monday of the next month. And you can see random profile there. Cal State Fullerton. I used to live in Orange County, California. Used to love Cal State Fullerton because of their baseball team. They actually won the College World Series one year. Nonetheless, advancing towards the first Monday of August 2020. And we're going to see, I think it said the Muay Thai Championships were just done. Nonetheless, as you can see, a new pound-for-pound #1 fighter is Jose Aldo. Benavidez, #1 of the flyweight rankings. Luque, #1 in the welterweight rankings. It says Bellator want Latifi, Manawa, and Benavidez. A lot of people are moving for these guys. I'm sure I'll be able to keep them, but I'm going to have to keep close eyes on all of that. All right. So let's see. Any new fighters? Boom, boom, boom. Drug results. Everyone passed for Invictus card. That's good. Ready? Here we go. So when it says ready for or introducing, That means, or when it says something like this, like Wanda Feaster is coming, it means that a brand new fighter has been made. So Polish fighter Andrzej Frankiewicz. Let's see. Competitor who entered, yep. Kickboxing background, successful at a national level. All right. Let's see his skills. Those are pretty decent skills, national caliber kickboxing. A bottler, more than liable to tap out to strikes? Really? It kind of sounds like he's a pussy. Hmm. I don't know. Middleweight, those I don't I don't know how many middleweights exactly I have in my feeder system, but I'm gonna go ahead and sign him. Give him 4 fights or so, and if he ends up like 0-4, then I know that he won't make it in the UFC. But if he ends up 4-0, then give him some more fights down there, and hopefully he can do well for himself. That's what I like to do. Immediately take in these newly generated fighters, give them a home immediately so they can get good fights in, and so that way they can develop. Jap Vandenhoek. That sounds like a Dutch name if I've ever heard one. He is a soldier. Jap the Game Vandenhoek. Dutch fighter, background in grappling, where he is a world-class competitor. World-class competitor. And yep, there you can see his grappling skills, very good. Boxing, not so much, and neither is his kicking. World caliber grappling, and he is a cage grabber. Illegally grabbing the cage, that's not good. But, I mean, world-class grappling, that's hard to come by, so we're going to go ahead, and he's a light heavyweight, which is impressive. So, go ahead and sign him up for 4 fights. Get him over to our feeder system. Alright, I think that's good for that. Anything lower than about 25 or so, and it means they're not exactly going to be great. Brazilian fighter on 24. Best in the country, nah, that's okay. Okay, let's look for any women and see if there are any women developing. That is a blatant picture of Holly Holm, but that's okay. Wanda Feaster. Let's see if I can get a better picture of her in there. Just any other woman. Any other woman. That's nah. Wanda Feaster has to be a Caucasian woman. Let's see. Any other woman picture. Any moment now there will be a woman no woman here. That's Alema McFarlane. No, that's Amon Darabi. Irene Aldana, no. Mazeppa, I believe she just retired, so we'll go ahead and use this one. Alright, Feaster. Alright, so Feaster. Regional level competitor, bantamweight. Yeah. She's cheap and, not a big investment. Money is not an issue at all for me here at the UFC. So I can sign up these fighters and play them no problem. Let's see, any other women? That's a woman. Not a great looking one, but nonetheless, strawweight. Resting, relatively a high level competitor. So that's the thing with these women fighters. They get generated, but they're not exactly great. She's from Oregon. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I'll sign her up for 2 fights. Hopefully she can make something out of herself. And the game can automatically detect that she's not a good fighter because it's only default offering her about 2 fights. And that's when you know that, she's not exactly great. Bella Fontanes. Let's see. Muay Thai respected competitor. That's even worse. Bantamweight. Nothing for her. Cristiano. Kinley Miller. Backgrounds in wrestling. Regional level competitor. What's her skills looking like? No, it's not very good. Maybe if she can... And that's the thing. Like, these fighters can get signed elsewhere and accrue some wins, accrue some losses. And based off that, I might be able to sign him and bring him over to Invicta or ROC anyways. But, nonetheless... Louis Godnot. Oh, he was injured. Madeline Farlow. Only 21. A flyweight. That's good. No competitive record, but a flyweight. There's not many fighters down there. I'll sign her up so she'll just be a can, essentially, for the... prospects to dispatch of, but I can pay her money for that, and then just cut her when I have to. All right. So that is the Monday people, and signing up some new fighters, seeing what else is going on here. You can see a lot of people want Benavidez and Latifi and Montana. Let's make sure that they're not close. Only one they're considering for Latifi. Take a look at Montana. Only one she is considering for Montana. Benitez. She is currently. Oh yeah, she's in Ryzen. I'm trying to sign her from Ryzen. Let's see. She's seriously considering more than one offer. 18 and 11. She's the number 2 flyweight in the world, though. I'll offer 4 fights. Yeah. About 3-5. Oh no, not not okay. Not $35,000 for you, Carla. Yeah, a little up the pay raise a little bit. I can do that. All right, Benavidez. This is an important one. This is our men's flyweight champion. Only one he's considering. I don't think anyone else can offer $102,000 per fight. Manawa. Only offer he's currently considering. And I think that's about it. Yeah, that's all the emails. So hopefully these guys all get signs, including the prospects that we're trying to get as we progress over towards our fight night, which is either going to be on Wednesday or on Saturday. So let me know down below in the comments, or if you're watching on Twitch, let me know what you're looking forward to in this. Let me know if you want to see anything in particular. If there's anyone you want me to look to try to sign, the chances are I've already signed them. I've got a lot of people that people wouldn't think to sign into the UFC. Ben Askren's back, Roy McDonald's back. A lot of people are in this UFC organization. I run a lot of fight cards, and there's a lot of fighters that you need for all those fight cards. So I like to keep a lot of fighters in every weight division, and I'm still looking to expand. Like I said, I'm trying to start the women's atomweight division. That's what the Ultimate Fighter is for. And I'm also looking to add a men's strawweight division. Initially, I was either going to move Benavidez either down to the strawweight division or up to the bantamweight division if he couldn't beat Mighty Mouse Johnson, but it looks like that is not going to be a problem because he's currently the flyweight champion. Nonetheless, we're at Wednesday, and it is fight night. And this is, I think we're going to do this fight night, and we're going to call it quits tonight. Venon Hoek has some rival bids. That's okay. These are just, Madrigal. Isn't he already in the UFC with me? 4 no's. Offer is currently considered. Okay, yeah, it's fine. All right. Mekaletti recovers. That's all good. All right, we're at fight night. Every fighter has made weight successfully. The show will be live tonight on Blurcat Radio, so we hope you join us then. Let's see if there's anything interesting happening. Martin Kampmann is fighting with Nick Diaz online. Bradley Scott's fighting with McGraw online. Hirota with Feely. Gastelum with Oscar Piachota. A lot of people going back and forth on social media. Who's this Dominic Madrano guy? 3-1. Respected competitor, 3-1 in Ryzen. I'll let him stay there. Let's see. Nothing really going here. And then the moment you get down, medium groin injury for Eriko Tanaka. Who are you? You're a welterweight fighter. Can you fight at featherweight? I think she can, because Tamika Brents fights at featherweight, and she's a normal welterweight. Huh. I don't know. That's the thing. Also, her name is Eriko Tanaka, and she clearly is a white woman. So, a bit of a identity crisis for Eriko. Welterweight, because Tamika Brents. So, let's go ahead and check this out. Alright. So, any active fighter, normal weight class, welterweight, because it's only 2 weight classes down. Female. Okay, so there is Eriko. So now I'm going to say welterweight, but can fight at featherweight. And if her name is there, then it looks like we're going to sign her, because that means she can be in the featherweight division, and she can't. That seems to be only relevant for Tamika Boom Boom Brents, who just beat Leslie Smith and has a fight booked against Megan Anderson. All right, so good for Tamika. able to cut weight. That's not going to be the most healthy weight cut, but nonetheless, it is fight night, and we're going to get things started for UFC Fight Night. Tate versus Wu, being shown live, I believe, on the UFC Fight Pass. Yes, and we're ready to go. Thanks for joining me here on Twitch, and if you're watching on the YouTubes, thank you for watching me. Either way, let's get things started. Miesha Tate versus Wanan Wu, the main events. Miesha Tate, as you saw, coming out of retirement and on a 2-fight losing streak, but Wanan Wu, the number 14 bantamweight in the world and number 13 in the UFC, on a 2-fight winning streak, defeating Shevchenko and Alima Lay McFarlane. Alright, so that is the main events. And we have also got Rico Verhoeven in the co-main events, 8-1, and won his debut match here in the UFC against Rollis Gracie. He got 2 quick wins in Invicta, and that was enough for me to be impressed and get him over here to the UFC because he is a low-level national in Europe. So getting the fans on his side over in Europe. He's actually a kickboxer, very good kickboxer in real life. And yeah, look out for his name in the near future. All right, also got Horiguchi, who most recently fought against Mighty Mouse Johnson for the flyweight title in this game. Signed him up from Ryzen because I saw he was doing really good for himself. He's actually doing really good for himself in real life in Ryzen. He just beat up Ian McCall. Sorry, I got a little bit of the sniffles. Nonetheless, let's get this fight night started, starting first with the prelims. Here you can see headlining Miesha Tate against Wanan Wu. Sorry if I'm butchering the name, by the way. Checking to make sure that we're all good, and we are recording, and here we go. First, the prelim fights is Nikolai Gapanov against Sugar Shane Young. What I do for all these fights is I like to just skip to the end, let them all simulate, and then all the main events, I do the timer, and I let it play itself out. So we're going to go ahead and skip to the end of this one, and the winner is Sugar Shane Young by unanimous decision. And after that, we get a little brief talk from the prelim fighter. He says he wants to fight Miles Jury. That is very interesting coming out of Shane Young, who's just winning in a prelim, wanting to fight against a ranked opponent. Next, we got Frank Camacho going up against John the Bull McDessie. Looks to be an even fight as far as the betting is concerned, 23-9 versus 16-9. And John the Bull McDessie comes out on top in the very first round due to TKO. Not as closely contested as we thought. Only a minute 20 into the match, he wins. He just thanks his gym and his sponsors. Next up, Curtis Millender taking on Omari Akhmedov. Millender is on I believe on a losing streak. He needs to really get a win. He's the favorite here. Yeah, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He needs to get something going against Akhmedov. Let's see how he's also on a losing streak. So both these guys desperately needing a win. And the one who comes on top with that win is Curtis Millender. So Akhmedov's going to have to find something to get going. I mean, he's getting late into his career. He's 36 years old. Something's got to give for him. And Millender praises Akhmedov. Nice bit of respect there. And says he's good. He's good in interviews. So now 9-3 Oliver Enkamp versus 18-7 Zach Atau. And Atau comes out on top, improves to 19-7. And he shows a little bit of respect to Enkamp. It's nice to see. Next is Yadong Song, which is a dope name as I've ever heard, against Chaz Skelly. Closely contested matchup as far as the betting line's concerned. And Chaz Skelly wins in the second round. Praises Song and then talks himself up. Next is Buschamp, Martin Buschamp. It's a Brazilian name, but nonetheless, Mike Santiago, who we just saw lose. Not just saw lose, but he lost to Mads Burnell quite a while ago. And Burnell just lost recently, I think, to Arnold Allen. Yeah, Arnold Allen. Nonetheless, Santiago is the underdog in this one. Buschamp 11-2-1, and I think he's going to come out on top. And he doesn't. Santiago pulls it out. 23 and 13 now his record. Kind of a upset in that one. Santiago says, yeah, talking about causing an upset. Santiago says that being labeled a heavy underdog hurt his pride and helped spur him on in the fight. Good for Santiago. And in the last of the preliminary fights, the Boston finisher Calvin Kattar goes up against Jason the Kid Knight in the featherweight division. 19 and 6 versus 21 and 7. But look at that betting line. They're really loving Jason Knight. And they had reason to. Finishes off Calvin Kattar in the first round. How is he getting on before this? We just saw him fight recently, too. He had just beaten Hakeem Dawodu, but was on before that on a 3-fight losing streak. So that's the flash preliminary. So now we're on to the main card. And the first match on the main card is Marco El Toro Polo Reyes, it's a terrible name, versus Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns, a massive favorite in this one. It's not even worth watching. I already know Burns is going to win, and he does. And I believe I'm going to cut Reyes after this. 9 and 8 just isn't a record that's going to cut it in the UFC. I believe he's going to be gone after this. Submission due to an arm bar. And you can see there, he's asking to fight Johnny Hollywood Case. So replies that he has a lot of respect for the skills of Case, thinks it'd be a great fight. We'll have to see. Rani Yahya versus Alejandro Perez is the next fight. Big favorite is Yahya. 27-11-1, facing on 29-1. Perez has no fight team coming into this match. That might be a reason why he's such an underdog. And Yahya finishes him in the first round. 20 seconds out of the first round. Not out of the first round, but away from the ending of it. Knocks him out with a punch. Let's see what Yahya has to say. He praises Perez for a tough fight. Next match is Hatsu Huoki of 37 years old, taking on Steven the Ocho Peterson. Alright, let's see how this one goes out in the featherweight division. Huoki wins due to a heel hook submission. You hardly see those. And Huoki says he was confident with his leg-based submissions, and he always knew that he would be able to bring it out. Alright, so now we got Horiguchi, who is actually an underdog against Bruno Macacao Acevedo. 21 and 2. I mean, he's obviously a very good fighter, but it's going to be interesting to see how he goes up against Horiguchi, and this is actually a fight I want to see happen out. So let's take a look at this one. Mazzagatti, the referee. Opening bell, here we go. Immediately shooting in, and Horiguchi's able to stuff it. It looks like he's still going for the takedown, and it looks like Horiguchi grabbed the cage. And now Azevedo has the takedown. He's kind of put in a submission and immediately gets Horiguchi to tap out. Wow. 1 minute 30 into round 1. And Azevedo taps out the former flyweight contender, Horiguchi. And Azevedo came into this as the number 12 flyweight in the UFC and on a 3-fight winning streak. And you got to imagine a win like that puts him at least top 10. At least top 10. And I'd imagine that I'll be booking him against someone in the top 5 rather soon, as he says he wants to fight Ben Nguyen, who, if I last recall, is like number 9 in the flyweight division. That might be something that I look at doing. You never know. These call-outs, they're very helpful to see who these guys want to fight, who they think they're capable of fighting. It's all very great. So Verhoeven taking on Zumana Cisse, 15 and 4 versus 8 and 1. Cisse coming off a loss against Travis Brown. A little bit of a test against Brown, and unfortunately didn't pan out. And Verhoeven is coming off a win against Hollis Gracie. And not much to this one. It's the co-main event, but it's rather evenly contested. Not much to fight for in this one, so we're going to go ahead and skip ahead. And Alcatraz Cisse wins submission in round 1. So the kickboxer going to have to learn a little bit of jiu-jitsu, after being submitted due to an armbar. And he says he has respect for Rico, and he has a lot of natural charisma. And with a face like that, doesn't that just spell out charisma? Yeah, of course. And so it's time for the main events. 19 and 9 versus 14 and 3. Miesha Cupcake Tate, no fight team. That's hard to imagine, but she is the underdog in this one against Wanan Wu, who is 14 and 3. She's coming off of a fight against Lima Lay McFarlane, and also beat Shevchenko. And apart from Juliana Pena, has won every single one of her fights in this save thus far. And of course, Miesha Cupcake Tate, former bantamweight champion, lost to Dormont, lost to Nunes, beat McMahon in her first match back. All right, it's time to see how the main event pans out. Once again, thanks for watching on Twitch, and hope if you're watching on YouTube, you subscribe to the Twitch channel. AZPlow21 is the channel name. I'll be playing a lot more of this WMMA5 for you guys, along with maybe some TEW if I have the time to do so. Nonetheless, let's get this one started. Miesha Tate versus Wanan Wu. And if I had the clip, I'd probably play the little UFC pre-match little song that they do before every match. Nonetheless, here we are. Main event time. Mazzagatti, the referee, the judges at ringside. Touch of gloves. A little bit of boxing back and forth to start things out. Sorry if it's going a little bit too fast. I may look to slow down the timer a little bit. I like to get past these fights rather quickly, so, and this is the first time doing this Twitch stream with it, so I might look to slow down the clock. Beautiful uppercut, and Tate is knocked down. Wu's pummeling away. Big strike. It looks like it's going to be over immediately in the first round. TKO winner, Wanan Wu. Let's go back and take a look at the commentary for that one. I saw the uppercut one. Tate looked like she wanted to shoot. And Wu took the initiative to do what? Come in closer. Okay, and then can't set up a left jab, but then hits her with an uppercut. So she went for a jab and missed. But I think Tate may have swayed to the right, so Wu immediately caught her with that right uppercut. And it popped her. Set Tate down. And then Wu just pummeled on her for the TKO victory. Just immediately hitting her with shots to the face. And Cupcake Tate, I'm scared as to what might happen right now. Are we about to see the retirement of Miesha Tate again? The fight was rated as being a great one for the main event. That's good. But 2:17 into round number 1. What is Miesha Tate going to say? Please do not retire. Okay, that's all. Miesha Tate didn't retire. Wanan Wu praises her team, her sponsors, and all the fans who came out to support her. And that is the end of UFC Fight Night Tate versus Wu. Commercial rating of 70, critical rating of 74, attendance of nearly 1,200 in Mexico. That's not the greatest. Popularity decreased a little bit in Canada and in Brazil. But nonetheless, that is UFC Fight Night Tate versus Wu. And I believe that when we come back, we're going to have another fight night for you, and maybe even the UFC on Fox card. I don't have to explain everything to you guys anymore, so I'll be able to just, get right into it with you. We're in the year 2020. It's 2 years into the future. My name has been Adrian Palayo. AZPalayo21 is the channel name, and I look forward to sharing more of this WMMA action with you guys in the near future, as we're going to look to see what's going on. And I believe it's Netta versus Adesanya the next fight night, as this Saturday, well, not this Saturday, but this upcoming Saturday in game is UFC Fight Night Neto versus Adesanya. So you can take a look at the fight card there. Main event, Antonio Braga Neto versus Israel Adesanya. Good middleweight action there. Charles Oliveira versus Christian Lee. Anthony Pettis, former champion, against Rene Forte. Davi Ramos versus Claudio Silva. Felipe Arantes versus Augusto Mendez. And Rena Kubota versus Alex Albu. So that's the fight nights for Neto versus Adesanya. That's going to be live in Brazil. And next time I see you guys, we're going to have that fight night for you. All right, this has been AZPlow21 signing off. I'll see you guys later.